So the next thing we're going to have a look at is the atomic bomb, number 51. I had a hunch that if my theories were right for the harmonic type of approach to things, then the harmonic bomb must logically have some sort of tie-in with that approach. And going back to Einstein, Einstein states that the whole of our physical reality is manifested by the geometrics of space and time. And if you think about this logically, if you want to disrupt matter or detonate it like an atomic bomb, logically you must use a geometric process. But you have to set up a process which is in reverse or in opposition to the normal process of matter production. So just out of curiosity, I started looking more closely at atom bomb tests. The first thing I did was to check where they actually let a bomb off, to see if there's any harmonics in the actual position of the bomb site. And that goes right back to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What most people don't know, before they drop those bombs, they were pre-calculated about 9 months in advance. And that didn't matter because the Americans at the time were the only ones that had the secrets, or the only ones that could do this type of technology. So they could just wait for as long as they liked to work it all out first and then go over and drop the bombs when the time was right. And not only that, they picked the best bomb aimers, the best crews, and everything was the best. They had those crews out in the desert for 3 months dropping bombs into, I think it was 300-foot circles from 30,000 feet to get accuracy. And logically, that's not necessary. Just a normal crew should be able to drop a bomb over the side of us, an atomic bomb. It didn't have to be right square on the target, within 50 feet or 100 feet. It could have been anywhere over the city and it would have done the same job. But they had to have it accurate, and it was well timed. It had to be timed right. And this is all on public record, but you've got to put all the little bits together. And they had to be over the site at a certain point, and then they're running from that point and timing it to the fraction of a second all the way along. And what they actually did in the end was drop that bomb through a time zone. And I'll explain that more as I go along. How they can detonate a bomb, it took me weeks to sort of figure it all out. First of all, it was the bomb site. The actual position where they detonated the bomb had to be harmonically tuned, or harmonic point. The bomb itself, you can read that in any science magazine, the bomb is made geometrically. It's a geometric device. It's all very well worked out to very precisely. The actual size of the unstable material has to be a certain size and volume and everything else, and it's got to come together at the right time. And everything you look at about the bomb is all geometric. But there was one little bit that it took me a while to find out, and in the end I figured out it must have something to do with the geometrics of the solar system. Because it appeared that the whole process was a process of relative motion. In other words, if you think of an atom with an electron spiralling around it, what you have to do is make that electron fly off at a tangent. So you've got to have all the different motions that affect the bomb at the instant of detonation all going in the right direction, so that will cause, when they push it all together, will cause that electron to fly off at a tangent. We're just taking one atom. And I thought, well, the only thing I can look at is the position of the sun at the time of detonation. And if we take this as the actual Earth and the sun's out here, well, you probably all know that the sun in its orbit, it goes spiralling around from the north down to the south every 6 months and goes up and down. It's spiralling from up in the area here, it spirals down, goes through the equator, and it's around here sometime. So if we say the atomic site is there, what I had to do was work out the geometric triangle, latitude and longitude between the points. Now, if we got the sun there, what happens if you take this right from the sun, we imagine that's the centre of the Earth, it's all a long way out, I know, but overhead sun at the instant of detonation, if you take it through the point on the Earth's surface to the centre of the Earth, well, it gives you a point on the Earth's surface at that instant of time. Of course, that only happens once in that position every year, because the next revolution around the sun will be this down here fraction, and as it goes down, the same thing here. So they've got to work out the bomb, the particular bomb they're detonating. It's all got to be tuned in. And I found that if I calculated that triangle, that's the latitude of the bomb site, that's the longitude going up to the sun site. So you've got a perfect spherical triangle on your surface. And after checking back on bomb tests, I managed to find out that these actual distances in minutes of arc were harmonic. And in other words, they set the bomb up, everything's ready, it's all armed, ready to go. And I have been told that on these test sites they've got mirrors on the sun, and they're calculating sun angle position instantly all the time. And as soon as the sun comes into position, it's passing through that point on its sort of spiral around the Earth. As soon as it goes overhead there, everything goes. It's all triggered off. And that's the final relative motion between the two things that sets that off, that makes everything fly apart. It's all those different motions all mixed up together, and everything comes to bits. So if you think about that logically, it was all right during the last war for Hiroshima and Nagasaki because nobody else knew this. So it didn't matter if one side knew, because they could wait for the time and calculate it all in advance and then do it. But if you've got two sides to know, so the Russians and Americans and everybody else, well, each side can pre-calculate where a bomb's got to be, when it's going to go off, up to years ahead. They've got computers going all the time. You can pre-calculate where it's got to go, the time it's got to go, and the whole thing becomes illogical. It's an illogical war. So at that stage, the only thing they could do about it was to stuff submarines with atomic warheads and have them roaming the oceans. So that if one side was stupid enough to start an illogical war like that, well, they could stand off for 2 months, 3 months, or a week, whatever it was, before they could come up with a time and a place to put one of theirs in to the enemy. So the whole thing just didn't work. But they've had those submarines anyway roaming the oceans just in case. But if you again read the records, you'll find that actually in the Auckland Star in New Zealand, there was half a page story about these submarines, and they actually cruise from geometry point to geometry point around the oceans. And they've got to be at those points at certain times all the time. Well, if you think logically about that, the reason they have to be at those points is because if you fire a missile, it's got to go through a parabolic curve. So if you've got to hit here, you've got to be here. You can't be just anywhere when you fire it. You've got to be at a certain point so the parabolic arc will make the missile hit the other point at the right time. Again, you have to have precise timing. And I would be one betting that if they started a war, probably most of those missiles would miss, because they wouldn't be accurate enough to get there right at an instant of time to make it go off properly. You'd probably have a lot of duds, I'd say. So what do they do next? They have multi-warhead missiles. And I think the reason for that is not to hit 10 targets at once, it's to make sure that one of those out of the 10 are going to do the job. So they scatter them. So it appears to me that the whole atomic scare and everything around the world has been used as a political weapon only. They've used that political part of the atomic sort of process to keep the public in order and scare you and say, well, if you don't do, we're going to annihilate you. But ever since I found this out, well, I've had no worries about an atomic war, because I know nobody in his right mind is going to even start something like that. Now they've got to the stage where they've got all their conventional weapons if they want them, so they're going to dismantle now the atomic warheads. And they're doing that now. They never use them, they don't want them. It's just a waste of money. If we knew it, the truth, probably a lot of that stuff's dummies anyway. They've got enough there to do the job. And so they've seen sense at last and going to get rid of them all. But now we'll go back to Hiroshima. I'll just show you the process for Hiroshima, page 52. This is nothing that amazed me, because when I published the facts as I knew them in one of my books, I thought it's only going to be a matter of weeks when the book comes out when somebody's going to write to me and say, now what about Hiroshima? How did they do that? And I was a bit worried because I didn't know how to work it out. And mainly because I didn't have the information. What I needed was the exact position of the sun at the time Hiroshima went up. And I couldn't get hold of any tables that told me. And eventually, not too long ago, I've got a friend in the United States, and he sent me computer readouts of every bomb test from 1945 up to 1989. I've got the whole series. with the time position, sun position and everything. So I eventually got hold of the actual position of the sun for Hiroshima. And as you see there, when you work it out, well, the distance from the sun to Hiroshima at the time of detonation was at 3361 point so-and-so minutes of arc. Now you do that process again with a 6 to hit the harmonic. And the square root of that, which is the same process you do in the unified equation when you take the square root to get 2694444, which is the answer to the unified equation. In other words, I'd hit it right on the button. And the actual, if you take this from this point to that point, which actually is a part of a great circle, I've just shown it as a straight line there, just diagrammatically. Well, that one gives you 16944, the old figure again. That's the harmonic that's right on the middle of the table between the electromagnetic situation of the Earth and gravity. The vertical one gives you 226944. I'm not quite sure how that works. I haven't come across that. It's strange, but the actual 26944 figure is there. So at last I found out just how they did Hiroshima. I've tried Nagasaki. That's a bit of a confusing one because those two bombs are two different bombs. One was plutonium and the other one was uranium. And Hiroshima one came out fairly well. I've got calculations for the Nagasaki one, but they're a bit confusing yet. I'm waiting till I've got a bit more information. But I know I'll crack that one too eventually. I've also checked the first bomb test in Alamogordo, and the harmonics are showing up there, which they have to be anyway. But that one, again, is a wee bit different to this one. This is a straightforward one to work out. But there's so many parameters. The unified equation can be set up in so many different ways geometrically. And I only know just enough to know the secret.